This is Dr. Amelia Bueche, founder of This Osteopathic Life for the health of all things. As a specialist in neuromusculoskeletal medicine and osteopathic manipulative medicine, I have dedicated my professional career to the study of the intricate design of the human body and understanding how the structural components, nerves, muscles, and bones can influence the function of the entire system. Quality movement directly relates to quality health, and it's important to have the right tools for optimal strength, flexibility, and mobility. Through these videos, I lead you through clear and concise exercises that you can use to find optimal health through movement. It is important to note that while I am a physician, these videos do not constitute medical advice, nor do they replace the important relationship between you and your personal physician. Before beginning any exercise plan, it is important to consult with him or her to ensure these are the right exercises for you, your particular diagnoses, and your current state of health. Thank you for joining me, and let's get started finding best health through movement. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about fascial release for the extremities. We think about stretching, and that relates to the muscles and lengthening along the muscle fibers. There's also the fascial casing around the muscle, so it's that really thin membrane that holds the muscle, and it serves as a connective tissue throughout our body. And that can hold a lot of tension as well. And it can be important to address that with some of our movements to improve our mobility. I'm going to first show you for the upper extremities, and one you can do seated, where you take your hands and you twist them so that your fingertips are at the base of the palm of one hand, and the same for the relationship in the other hand. And you simply press your hands together, and you'll start to feel a stretch along the surface of your forearm here. And then you can switch which hand is on top, and you notice with that mechanical advantage you'll feel a little bit different degree of stretch in each side. And that's a nice one that you can use throughout the course of the day, especially if you're typing or you're reading or driving and everything is kind of clenched in the hands. That's a simple one you can use just to stretch things out. And really think about getting long through the fingers as you do that as well. You can also use a wall or a surface for some feedback. And if you can see my hand up here, pretend that window's the wall that I'm touching. And I have my hands up, kind of like Spidey hands. They're like this. They're not flattened out. I'm up on my fingertips. I'm here at the wall. I'm flexed at my wrist. My wrist is bent, and I walk around like the face of a clock, staying in contact with the wall the whole time. And where I feel a big bind, some engagement in the tissues of my arm, then I can start to turn away, rotate my body away, and that enhances the degree of stretch that I'm feeling along my arm. If it ever gets to be too much, or if it causes you to feel any numbness or tingling in the arm, rotate back, take some of that tension off, and just meet yourself with that against the wall. You can work on flattening your hand out. For me, that's usually quite a bit of a stretch, so I prefer to stay up on the fingertips, but you can test both of those out. You can also walk your hands back the other direction and around the other way, and you'll feel that you'll shift the direction where you feel the stretch in your arm. Again, you can turn your whole torso away and back, and then you would switch and do the opposite side. Okay, up on the Spider-Man hands, rotating in both directions and using the body away as an enhancement of that stretch. Another exercise you can use is either on hands and knees on the floor or just on the surface, say of your desk or of your chair. I'm going to use this stool. It's a little bit narrow because I really want to get my fingers spread out wide, but it still gets the job done. And don't let things not being exactly right stop you from getting any benefit from the exercise. So you're going to think about spreading your fingers out wide and just gently rocking your weight over your hands, and you'll start to feel that release into the forearms, into the base of the palm. You can even go in a circular direction one way and then the other. Then you turn your hands out sideways, and same idea, rocking front and back, side to side, feeling a stretch through the wrists. Then you turn your fingertips towards you, and this is the deepest stretch or bind here in the fascia. And again, if anything's too much, you just take less weight onto the arms. If you want more of it, you lean back and you can enhance that stretch. Then last, you'll turn your hands upwards. So my palms are facing up. I'm on the backs of my hands. I'm not putting a lot of weight on them, but opening and closing the fists in this position can do a nice job of releasing along the back of your forearms. Okay, so it's 4 directions here. There's our hand-to-hand release, and then the hand up on the wall, walking around and turning away to enhance that. Those are 3 ways to release the fascia of the upper extremities. Now let's talk about the lower extremities. And we stretch the big muscles of our legs and even into our calves, but sometimes we ignore the feet. And it's important to allow release there so it can improve the foundation of our whole posture. So the thing I like to do is stand in that same stretch I would use to stretch my hip flexor, but come in a little bit. So I'm not as deep into the stretch. I'm not really focusing on stretching my hip, but I'm using that same starting position to really focus on the tension of my foot on the floor. I'm going to keep the heel down. You want to think about grabbing the floor with your toes. So you might want to do this barefoot. These shoes are pretty minimal, so there's not a lot of surface between my foot and the floor. But I'm grabbing the toes with the floor with my toes, and then turning, rotating my body toward that leg. And I feel a big engagement kind of on the inside of my thigh and down into my heel. And then rotating the other direction, still gripping the floor with my foot, and I'm feeling the stretch on the back of my leg as I rotate. And then coming back to center. And then we would switch with the other foot in the back again, thinking about where was I when I was doing that big hip flexor stretch, coming back a bit, grabbing the floor with my toes, turning my whole self toward that foot that's engaged with the floor, and then turning my whole self the other direction. Another way we can really get into the bottom fascia of the foot, we often think about plantar fasciitis as an area of inflammation and tension in the foot. You can step back like you're going to go into that lunge, but keep your heel up. So I'm really on my toe here. And just that act of lifting my heel, letting that knee bend slightly, I feel a lot of release, engagement into the arch of my foot. Okay, you can have something near you if it's hard to balance in this position. And then you're holding there, you would switch and come the other direction. One way you can engage in this that also can engage into the knees is to sit back on the heels. So you would kneel, tuck the toes under, and sit your weight back toward the heels. Okay, you can listen for that. If that's too much for your knees, that standing option is a great choice as well. So those are some ways to engage the fascia, the lining around our muscles that can hold a lot of tension to improve our flexibility and our mobility in the upper extremities, hand to hand up on the wall, rotating around, using our hand on a surface and rocking forward, and then two directions with the heel down, and we're using the whole torso as a lever, and with the heel up on our toes, and really releasing through the bottom of that foot. Great ways to address our hands and feet, which do so much to carry us throughout the course of the day. Thank you. Thank you for joining in on this episode of This Osteopathic Life, Best Health Through Movement. This is Dr. Amelia Bueche, and we'll see you next time.